In the time it takes to listen to the commercial, your life could change forever. I pray you never are forced to shoot in self-defense, but if you must, then you must be ready. That's why the USCCA exists, because every responsibly armed American should have the training and education to navigate a self-defense situation. And should you ever need it, the 24/7 critical response team is right there for you. To discover more about USCCA, visit uscca.com/GOR. Act now, because the life you save could be your own. That's uscca.com/GOR. Are we having technical
Tuesday is election day. Don't forget, everybody, that Tuesday is election day. So if you have not voted, you need to get out and vote. And if you have not yet, download the voter guide. If you're in San Diego, go to SanDiegoCountyGunOwners.com and download our voter guide. If you're in Orange County, go to OrangeCountyGunOwners.com and download theirs. And if you are in Riverside and San Bernardino, go to Inland Empire Gun Owners and download their voter guide. Extremely important, particularly if you're in San Diego. Need you to vote for Kelly Martinez for sheriff. She is.
She told me to tell you hello.
Oh, did you see her at KUSI?
Absolutely.
I was on KUSI this morning.
I made her turn red.
Why?
Because I told
Do
her.
I want to know?
I just told her how much you promote her every time we come on air, and she was very. She goes, "Yeah, I know. I talked to him last night."
Yeah, she's great, man.
She's a
really
sweetheart.
Great. She's
She really is
a professional law enforcement officer. She's not a politician. She's, you know what I mean? And that's what you want. 35 years of experience. She's been absolutely wonderful. So I was on KUSI this morning. Did anybody see? Everybody up at 6 in the morning?
You were there before me?
It was there like 6, yeah.
What time were you? I was on at 7:50.
No, well, we missed each other by like an hour and a half.
Oh.
Talking about the voter guide. Alicia saw me, right? You were up at 6 watching kids.
I was sleeping.
In your dreams, she's seen you.
They like to put me on at prime time like that because they know what a big draw my interview is. But anyway.
So we only got, what, 2 more days?
We only got 2 more days. So please vote, everybody. Not only do you need to vote, if you're sitting there listening, you think, well, I already voted. He's not talking to me. Go find 10 people and make them vote. I can't tell you how many
I make
people,
everybody, I tell them the same thing. Everybody I talk to, make sure you vote. Make sure you vote.
How many people in your life are just like, wouldn't vote without you? Isn't that crazy? It's, I don't know. I can't fathom not voting, but it's amazing. So grab 10 people, make them vote, give them the voter guide, make sure that they all vote the right way. That's how you win. It's not a matter of, who's a better candidate or whatever. It's a matter of who shows to vote.
Well,
because
exactly.
It's not 100%. 100% of people don't vote. That's the wrong way to say that.
I think that's the wrong way to say that. Let me do my math.
You never get 100%
without
voter
voting.
turnout. Right. So,
because you never do, because there's always that small percentage.
I think it's a large percentage. Yeah. A large percentage. If you look at the people who are eligible to register and vote, it's a small percentage of people that actually show up and vote. If you look at the people that are registered and don't show up, it's 50, maybe 60% of people show up.
And I think it's a demographics. When you were 20, 21, did you vote?
No. Yeah, I did actually. No, I really did.
I could care less when I was 20 years old.
I think I've only missed one election, and I was 20. And the reason I actually went downtown, I was living in San Francisco, went downtown to vote, locked my keys in my car. So I had to take care of that, and I couldn't vote.
What do you mean like it took all day to get your keys out?
It
You
pretty
just
much
break
did.
the glass.
Yeah, well.
I mean, you're in San Francisco. There's plenty of people that would have done it for you.
Back then, it was there was no cell phone. You know what I mean? I had to go into this dingy, horrible bar and beg them.
Oh, then you just got drunk, and that's why you did.
I didn't get drunk. There was an old lady in there in this bar that actually puked.
Okay, we don't want to hear
really
about
bad.
it.
It was a horrible experience.
That story's getting too deep.
Oh, all right. So anyway, so everybody get out and vote, unless you're Jackson's age. Right? You're not.
You can vote,
voting?
Jackson. Did you vote already?
No, not yet.
You got to get with the program. Oh, you're going to wait till the day of. I see. You're smart.
He is smart. He wants to make sure his vote counts.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
So you got a joke for us?
As a matter of fact, I do.
All right, fire it up.
What do you call a pony with a sore throat?
What do you call a pony with a sore throat? Alicia?
Ooh.
Where's Sam when you need him?
A little horse?
She got it.
She got it.
A little
You're a
horse.
total failure as a comedian.
I need a hard joke.
I know. Harder than what she knows.
I have 4 kids. He's going to have to work hard.
She was looking over your shoulder, I think. You got to hide it this night. Like
Yeah.
this.
Get it close to your vest.
A little horse.
Alicia, why did the cookie go to the hospital?
Oh, this one's a good one.
Goodness.
Oh, you know this one?
Yeah, it's a good joke.
I don't know.
Why?
I don't know this one.
You want to say it, Jackson?
Because he was feeling crummy.
Oh, very good. Okay, you're back to being a comedian again.
There you go. Nice job.
Let's take after your dad. Isn't he funny?
Yeah.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
That was very convincing.
Yeah, I know. That was very, very convincing. Well, so
All
much
right.
for
Well, we have a great show coming up. Even better than the first 7 minutes here. Dan Wos is we're going to interview him, and we're going to talk about an upcoming event, which is tomorrow night, that is being sponsored by the Turning Point USA. Amy Robbins and Antonia Oakfer are going to be there. Of course, Sam the Gunman's going to be on. I'm going to talk about some updates. We're going to talk about some legal updates. We're going to basically talk about, I have all kinds of conversations about what we're doing as activists. And a lot of people don't know. They say, well, gee, we got to get rid of this roster. I'm like, well, actually, we have a lawsuit getting rid of the roster. So we're going to spend a segment talking about each of the lawsuits that we're involved with to bring people up to date.
Jeez, that's going to take, what, 3-4 hours?
Yeah, well, there's 5 of them. It's 5 of them. So we're just going to touch on each, let everybody know. It's, of course, lawsuits, it's a lot of hurry up and wait.
But this is also a reason they should join San Diego County gun owners because of the lawsuits. Because guess what? I haven't found a lawyer yet that was cheap.
Exactly.
And it takes a lot of money to fight these fights. So if you're sitting at home complaining about these laws, you need to participate.
That's right. $10 a month. Most effective $10 you're going to spend all
Can't even buy
month.
dinner or breakfast for $10.
You can't.
You can get.
I read an article over the weekend. A Whopper is like $9.
No.
Did you know that? And if you get a meal, it's like $13
No.
now for like a
What?
Whopper meal with cheese.
Alicia,
No.
tell the truth.
How much is a Whopper?
$6-7
I have no idea, but
Yeah.
I would never have guessed that.
Yeah, Whopper's like $9 these
No.
days. I was just reading this article. It's crazy. So
How about
anyway.
them?
So would you
McDonald's?
rather have a Whopper or gun rights?
Oh.
That's really the question.
I don't know.
For $1
I
more,
want to make rib.
if you just
No,
upgrade your
Dave.
Whopper,
Dave.
Delicious.
No, Dave. It's right before elections, and we're working really hard to get more pro 2A officials elected. But what we are working so hard for, well, what does it look like if we're successful? Dan Wos is next.
All right, but first, if you have legal matters that involve firearms that you need to call California firearms lawyer John Dillon, especially if you have questions on the red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe you need to know that your guns are California compliant. Call our trusted firearms attorney, John Dillon. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws. Call 760-642-7150, or you can visit his website at dillonlawgp.com. Who's our guest?
Dan Wos.
You know him well?
Yeah, he's been a guest on the show. He is a nationally recognized Second Amendment advocate and author of the book Good Gun, Bad Guy.
Oh, I remember this.
Actually, it's a whole series. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a host of Good Gun, Bad Guy Radio and The Loaded Mic. And he speaks at events. He's a contributing editor for many publications. He can be found on radio stations across the country. Dan, how are you?
What's going on, you guys? How are things in California? As weird as they are up here in New York?
I think we got the corner
I
or the
think
market
we've got
cornered
him
on
beat.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, we could trade governors, but it wouldn't do any good whatsoever.
No, we'd still be in the same place.
I forget. Are you in New York City or where are you in New York?
Oh, no, I'm in upstate New York. I'm just south of the Adirondack Mountains. It's a beautiful place. It's called Saratoga Springs. Fortunately, we're mostly conservative up here, but we have to deal with all the New York City
Right.
liberal nonsense because it's statewide laws. So
That's
obviously you guys are aware of.
We got the same
The,
problem. We're in San Diego and Sacramento and San Francisco.
it's L.A. and San Francisco. We have to deal with L.A. and San Francisco.
What about Sacramento?
And Sacramento is where all the bad decisions are made. But But all the people that making them, they're from Sacramento or from San Francisco and L.A. So it's the same thing. I think a lot of people don't understand that, Dan, that we live in this blue state, but you get outside of Manhattan, you get outside of L.A., and we're Jackson, Mississippi.
Well, and that's just it. People, as soon as I say, oh, I'm from New York, they go, "Oh, you're from New York?" Yeah, but don't hold that against me. Let me explain. let me redeem myself.
Because Buffalo, how close to Buffalo are you?
Well, probably about 4 hours.
Oh, I didn't know. That's okay.
Southeast from Buffalo.
Talus is just released an album. You got to be.
I think we talked about this before. I'm a huge Talus fan. Mr. Big, when Billy Sheehan went on to Mr. Big and David Lee Roth band, I've always followed Billy Sheehan from the early days in Talus. Yes,
Dave. Talus is it's an '80s band, and then Billy Sheehan, who you and I interviewed, he's a gun guy, Dan. And
I didn't know that. I met him in California once, and I've been a rock and roller my whole life too. So I toured in rock bands myself, and I've always known of Billy Sheehan.
Well, that has the cover of their new album has it's got an old what was the Back to the Future car?
Oh, a DeLorean.
Yeah, it's got a DeLorean on it. It's all run down. Get out of this '80s band. It's kind of funny. Anyway, all right. Well, Dan, you were at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Dallas.
Yes.
Yeah. What was that? Was it like a month ago? 2 months ago?
Yeah. It was the end of October into early November. So I think it was, end of September into early October. Yep.
First off, how was it?
Fantastic. I mean, this is an event that I'm asked to speak at every year, and it's such a great event because you got gun rights advocates from all over the country. We get to meet our friends. Me and guys like Mark Walters are hanging out afterwards, smoking cigars. It's just, got the guys from Gun Owners of America, I'm hanging out with them. It's all us gun guys getting together and just, shooting the what, and we're just having a great time. And we get to share everything that we know with each other, and it's just a real good collection of people. Just some of the greatest people that I've ever met.
Well, I think one of the highlights was your talk. You talked about what winning looks like, and I thought it was an excellent talk. I thought you did a great job. What prompted you to give that speech?
Well, I mean, if we can talk about the negative stuff all the time, which we do a lot. There's a lot of gun laws and gun restrictions coming down on us. But you know what? I mean, we don't have any inspiration unless we actually recognize the times we win. And we're winning a lot. I mean, you got to look at some of these cases like with Heller and McDonald, and now with the big Bruin case here in New York. Things are changing, and especially with the Bruin case. Now that we had Judge Clarence Thomas write this historical tradition piece in his decision, that's going to change everything. And I don't know if people realize that, because now we've got precedence that says if in other words, you can't create a situation where you're trying to justify new gun laws if that doesn't have some sort of historical standing. And when they talk about historical tradition, they're talking about colonial time. They're talking about 1700s. So we have a good opportunity right now to use that precedence to start pushing back on some of the existing gun laws that are in place right now. So I think things are going to change, and I think the Bruin case was a big win.
It is enormous. Bigger, better, more clear, more useful than even the Heller case, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So tell everybody, just give a little recap. What does winning look like? When you were talking and talking in the speech, give some examples. What does winning look like for gun owners?
Well, I mean, like I said, with the historical tradition is a big deal. But you know what? Another thing is, once we start understanding, and we start pushing back on some of the narrative. Now, the narrative, I think, is probably the most important thing, because and this is some of the stuff that I talked about in the speech, but the narrative, the anti-gun narrative, is what kind of shapes public opinion. And we don't realize how powerful it is until we start seeing people voting because they're scared of guns. And then we realize that, wow, the narrative has really conditioned people to be fearful and to vote for the politician that promises them safety, which, as we see in New York and California, that these politicians are not providing safety. Gun laws don't provide safety. They actually make people more dependent on government, and they put people in more danger. And winning looks like people saying, wait a minute, this isn't working. You know, you're letting criminals out of jail. You're changing the narrative on guns so everyone's scared of guns and wants to, and then you try to disarm the people. Well, that doesn't work. So now people are pushing back and saying, no way, it's not going to work. 2020, we had some huge gun sales, and a good portion of those gun sales were people who'd never owned a gun before. They saw the riots. They experienced left-wing riots across the country, and they said, no, we're not going to believe it anymore. We're not going to put up with it. Even the liberals were going out getting guns to be able to protect themselves against the violence that they voted for. So winning looks like changing minds and people saying we're not going to go along with this anymore. To me, that's what we need to do. We need to change that narrative, and I think we're doing it.
Well, and it's being recognized as the civil right it truly is, rather than it was almost it was kind of a novelty right. And I think it's finally being recognized as the civil right it really truly is, and it's certainly not a secondary right.
Well, I mean, our founding fathers knew that these people would be coming, and they saw them coming over 200 years away. That's why they wrote the Second Amendment. They knew that evil people or people with bad intentions would try to overpower others and take control of populations, and they knew that. They understood psychology probably better than we do today. So they wrote the Second Amendment as a way of saying, when this happens, because it will happen, Newsom, Hochul, they knew these people would come along. Biden, Eric Swalwell, these people, they knew it would happen. They didn't know how or when, but they wrote that in there just to be sure, just to be safe.
And it's a great decision, and it's going to, like you said, it's kind of paving the way to victory and winning. But one of the things I like to say about it is it's not magic, and it's not the end. It's really, it's like we've been handed this tool that we can finally use in 1,000 fights, starting right now, and we're already seeing results. We're already seeing good things happen. California and New York both, no more good cause, no more of this subjective good cause crap when it comes to getting a carry permit.
Right.
And we're already seeing some of the lawsuits that we're a part of. They're getting revisited. These ridiculous assault weapons bans and magazine bans and all that other crap. It's all going to go to it's going to be falling away. It's falling away. It's going to be struck down, and that'll be it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you talked about the assault weapons ban. I mean, they tried that in '94. I remember Dianne Feinstein coming out with that AR-15, holding that up in the air and saying, this is the problem. We need to get rid of these so-called assault weapons. Bill Clinton says we need to get rid of these. We need an assault weapons ban to stop violence. It didn't work. Violence doesn't stop when you take away a certain device, because violence is in the heart of some people. The people need to be stopped. The people need to, and then you get our governors who, letting people out of jail. It doesn't make any sense unless you realize that they're doing it for a reason. And I always say this, and it comes out of kind of left field because people aren't really talking about it a lot, but they're not stupid people. They're letting prisoners out of jail, early release and bail reform and all this nonsense. And they're simultaneously creating gun restrictions for the good guys, making people vulnerable and unarmed and helpless. You have to imagine that they're getting some sort of benefit out of that, creating this victim-predator society. And it's the one thing that I've been speaking out against, and I hope people are starting to recognize. I think they are. But you create a victim-predator society for one reason, and people are starting to catch on.
What's the reason?
Well,
spell it out for me. Talk to me like I'm 5 years old.
When people are dependent, they become easier to manipulate. I mean, just like with COVID, people became very scared and very dependent on what's the next thing we need to do from Fauci. What's Fauci say? What's Biden say? What's the next thing we need? Because people get scared, they get fearful, they have no way of, they think they don't have any way of protecting themselves, so they do whatever the government tells them. This is like welfare. I'm very, very against the welfare system. We've got generations now on the welfare system. These people are dependent, and they've been taught to be dependent.
County Gun Owners is dedicated to preserving and restoring Orange County self-defense rights. And if you live in Orange County and want to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, you need to join ocgunowners.com/join. Orange County Gun Owners is more than supporting the lawsuits for the Second Amendment. They have developed an effective infrastructure that focuses on local outreach and activism. Volunteer at a shooting social, at a gun shop, and tabletop, and help more pro-gun local officials get elected. Become a member today. ocgunowners.com/join.
All right, we're talking to Dan. Dan Wos, how you doing, man? So it's by the way, the album, it's called 1985. That's why they put the DeLorean on the cover of it. I had to look it up during the break. It's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to it, Dan. So we're talking, what does victory look like? Tuesday is, of course, Election Day. Any predictions, Dan? What do you think?
Well, I have high hopes for my state of New York. I think the vibe up here is really going for Zeldin, and I think according to some of the polls, he's a point ahead. So,
wow.
That is going to change everything. That's going to reverberate around the country. If New York can flip red, that's good news for everybody. And that's what I think is going to happen. And the talk of the red wave, I got to tell you, I'm starting to believe it now as I'm starting to see some of the polls. So high hopes, but I don't like to get too overzealous, because the Democrats have capabilities of, let's just say, getting things to turn their way. So that's what I fear. But,
well, in San Diego, there is one of the indicators that there may be a red wave is, we can vote for, I don't know, like a month prior to the actual election day, and the registrar of voters will actually tell you, they'll release the information and say, how many people have turned in their ballots. So you can get that information, and you can even sort it, see, hey, are they, Republican, Democrat, declined state. And there is an enormous influx of Republican ballots coming in, and there is they're lagging Democrat ballots. That's who knows what's going to happen on Tuesday? Maybe they're all just waiting to vote, but that's unusual. Usually, Republicans vote on election day, and Democrats vote prior. So it is kind of interesting.
Right, just that early on like this in the early voting, that's a good sign.
It is. I don't think there's. I was thinking about one of the ways they describe this. If one party is showing up early and they're excited, and the other part isn't, they call it enthusiasm, and usually it's the result of rallying around an issue, and Democrats don't really have an issue to rally around. There isn't like a big Democrat thing happening.
Yeah, they do hate.
Well, they tried, and of course, we're a very blue state, but I'm noticing that they tried to latch on to abortion, because of the Supreme Court decision and everything, and it doesn't seem, it's just not taking off.
Well, they're not paying any attention. It's food, it's gas.
Yeah, it's the economy, stupid.
And where you're at, how much did you spend in heating oil?
Oh, up in New York, stuff like that gets really expensive. I mean, we're natural gas where I am, but yeah, no, everyone's already complaining about the heating oil expense.
And then Biden just says he's going to cancel coal.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I wanted to congratulate you guys on your recoil article. I was so happy to see it. I'm in a mall in Albany, New York, and my wife is shopping. So what do? I go to the local bookstore and I check out all the gun magazines, and they're my friends from San Diego. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, you bet. Recoil did a nice, really cool article. I thought that turned out really well. Recoil's been a good friend of us, too. They've been really, really wonderful. If you're not getting Recoil, please go out and get Recoil. You can actually sign up to get Recoil on our website, or if you become a 10-ring member of San Diego County.
Oh, is that why I'm getting it?
That's why you get it, man.
You didn't tell me I was a 10-ring.
I have told you you're a 10-ring member.
I didn't know that. But I got a book. I thought, oh, look, somebody screwed up and sent me a book.
So, Dan, if we get this big red wave, I got to tell you, my fear, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. So my big fear is that Republicans are getting into office and we're not going to see any good out of them. Every year they're going to tell us, there's 3 other things that are a priority. It's such a fear of mine.
See, I don't think so. I think Dan, don't you think that they've gone to the wall against the Democrats and saying they're going to do? They almost can't not produce. Do you think?
Normally, I would agree, but the people who are in now are real fighters. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene. We got. Carrie Lake.
Yes.
People like this, to me, I think there's going to be a new kind of a rejuvenation in the Republican Party. So normally I would agree, but this time I think it's going to be different.
I do too. In fact, I was talking to one of the kids at KUSI TV, and I says, the Biden group is my group. I have to take responsibility for it because of my age. I says, your group, talking to these kids, I says, are the Carrie Lakes of the world and the DeSantis of the world. And I think it's a better group of politicians.
And the AOCs of the world. Oh, wait. No.
Well, you can't. Yeah, but that's.
Oh, wait. Never mind. Yeah. Not that one.
Well,
her and Elon are getting married, did I tell you?
No.
Oh, you didn't hear that?
No.
People can get beaten down with these left-wing policies only for so long, and then I think we naturally, just because we're Americans, we naturally revert back to a kind of embracing traditional American values, and I think that's what's happening. It sure looks like it.
Well, you can't scare the people more than once. They did it with the virus. You notice where they were talking about another virus was right around the corner?
Yeah.
And got no response.
No traction.
Pardon?
No traction.
No traction at all. So they go, okay, let's try something else. And I really think it is. And I think social media has a lot to do with it. We do have a strong right side media group, as little as it is. And I think they've played that card to the death. And it's just not working anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree. They've played all their cards. They've played their entire hand, and now they're just getting desperate. Right. So now they're attacking the character of. I put a little Facebook post out, but I keep an eye on. I don't want to keep bringing you back to New York, but it's a good example because we got Hochul running against Zeldin, and I watch their Twitter feeds, and the comments on Hochul's are 98% negative, but it's Republicans really calling her out on her policies. And then you go to Zeldin's page, and it's Democrats bashing Zeldin, but in a different way. The Democrats are bashing the Republicans by wishing death on him and his family, wishing his daughters to be raped.
Right.
Horrible things that you would never even think of. But this is the mindset of the Democrats. It's different from the mindset of the Republicans, and you can see that in the comment section. So I really believe it's good versus evil this time around.
What's the big issue out there? What are people? What seem to be the hot button issues between the two candidates? Like what, you know what I mean? Like what's?
Oh, it's so clear. Hochul, appointed Governor Hochul. Now remember, she was appointed by Governor Cuomo, who left in disgrace for his sexual misconduct and getting thousands of old folks killed in nursing homes in the COVID thing. So she was there the whole time. She was working under him the whole time, and she never spoke out. So that's one thing. But she's still there. She's riding on abortion and just the democracy. They use this word democracy, and I don't even think she knows it. We're a republic. We're not a democracy, but that's beside the point. Whereas Zeldin is saying, wait a minute, we got so much crime. We got maniacs pushing people in front of subway trains, people getting stabbed to death on the streets of New York City. We got all sorts of crazy violence, and Hochul is trying to disarm people, and she's letting prisoners out of jail. So it couldn't be more of a stark difference in platforms that they're running on, which is why I think we really have a good chance, regardless of the fact that the majority of voters here in New York State are Democrat. I still think we have a great chance, just because people don't want the violence anymore. So violence is, you asked me what were the top things? Violence. It's violence and the economy.
And look what her response was to Zeldin. I don't know why violence is bothering you.
I don't know why you care about that.
Why do you care about that so much? What's the big deal?
Oh, wow.
Seriously. I mean, I actually seen it when she said it, and it took me back.
Just disconnected from reality.
Well, she doesn't ride the subway.
Yeah.
Right. Well, exactly. She's not in that.
No.
She doesn't have to experience that stuff.
None of them do. None of them ride.
They do want people vulnerable. I believe that the
Yep.
Democrats in New York State, and I can't speak for California, but I believe the Democrats that run our state legislature really like the idea of people being vulnerable, because they're easier to manipulate, easier to control, easier to accept unconstitutional policies.
But it's not working. It worked once. It's not working twice. It's not going to work a third time. Unless they can back it up with proof, it's not working. And the border open, even though they say it's closed, the crime is rampant, even though they say it's not. It's just not working because people can see it.
And you know what? The one thing that the Democrats in New York do not want is an empowered society, empowered citizens. And the one thing that gives us empowerment is the Second Amendment.
Right. Well, what now? If you guys do get a Republican governor, what's the makeup of your legislature? Is it 50-50 or is it super blue,
No, our
super red?
legislature is pretty much all Democrat. So I'm not sure what Zeldin's got planned, but I'm sure that's going to change to a certain extent.
What's Zeldin's background?
Zeldin was a prosecutor. That was one of the things he was. He was in the military, and he was a prosecutor. He's been in politics for a while, but prosecutor and military.
Well,
But don't you think, like, if she gets out and Zeldin gets in, don't you think the rest of the people in office are going to go, uh-oh, and realize they could be next when their term comes up?
You know, I wonder how that works. I wonder if they start bailing ship, or if Zeldin is able to start bringing in some new legislators. I'm not exactly sure the mechanics behind that.
You might even stay in New York.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know, my wife and I, we've talked about leaving and stuff, and then I decided, you know what, I'm not going to let crazy liberal governor determine where I live. I'm vice chair of my town Republican committee, and we have a lot of business here and real estate and things like that. I don't want to leave, and I'm not going to leave. I'd rather fight.
Well, Mike and I aren't leaving either. Hey, did you know we have a world-class flight training school in San Diego? Pilots can fly almost every day. We're close to the ocean as well as the desert and the mountains. So SDFTI's instructors can help you learn to navigate around the international borders. And that's why San Diego is one of the best places to learn how to fly in the world. Learn to fly in sunny San Diego right at Montgomery Field. Getting started is super easy. Then give them a call at 858-569-1822 or learn to fly with SDFTI or call them at 858-569-1822.
Jackson, you all right?
He wants a McRib.
You got another? You got another joke for us?
Yep.
All right, fire it up.
Why does a pirate take so long to learn the alphabet?
Why does a pirate take so long to learn the alphabet?
It's yours, Dan. Go for it.
Yeah, Dan, do you know?
I have no idea.
All right, go ahead, Jackson.
Because he spends years at sea.
There you go.
That's a good one.
See that, Dan? That's how you get articles into Recoil right there. Is that kind of high quality, highbrow humor. So do you, one of the things that we're talking to Dan Wos about some of the victories, both past and future, And we're both very, very excited about Tuesday. We're both very, very excited about some of these lawsuits that are happening. Do you think, Dan, that, it might be a chicken or egg. Do you think that the culture needs to change, or do you think that the public policy changes the culture?
Well, that's a good question. It's something I think about a lot. And I think we generally have people will generally take two routes in life. I think they'll either take a responsibility for themselves and a forward moving action and have a level of self-esteem where they're a controlling element in their own life, and they'll move forward and they'll be that kind of person, that forward moving person. But then we have people who maybe don't have that same level of kind of go get 'em and kind of self-esteem. And they tend to look for organizations or groups that help them feel more empowered by being part of the group. They're followers. We have leaders and we have followers. And I think that, because those are human elements and human characteristics, I think the Democratic Party capitalizes on capturing a lot of those people who need to sit at that popular table. They need to be part of that group because maybe they don't have that level of self-esteem. They don't have that kind of go-get-'em attitude. So in one respect, it's part of our culture. On the other hand, I do believe that left-wing ideology kind of conjures up more of that, and it kind of keeps those people there. It keeps them more dependent. And like I said, we talk about the welfare system. We talk about making people fearful. It kind of those people gravitate toward that group, but then once they're there, it becomes part of their daily lives, and they have a hard time getting out because there's a difference. I always say, the left-wing folks, not all bad folks, but they tend to be more willing to give up their freedom for a perceived safety, whereas conservatives are willing to give up safety for freedom. It's a different type of mindset. So it's in our character, but the Democrats will capitalize on it more, as far as that's just the way I kind of see it, and I've thought about that a lot.
Well, and it's I think that the cultural change, though, that is the reason. And I'm not, again, it's a tough question. Did the culture change or did the policy change?
It's tough to analyze.
But I think that, like, I know in San Diego, it's definitely an example of the public policy changing, and we were able to get CCWs for the first time in decades. And I'm watching the culture change. But across the country, it was the opposite. The culture changed, and then the public policy changed. More people started caring. Well, I don't know. Gosh, I'd say we could go back and forth and round and round.
Well, the Bruin case, at least here locally, a lot of people may not even be aware of the Bruin case, what came out of it, but what they're finding is through word of mouth, they're seeing the trickle down. The removal of that cause that opened up here in San Diego County for people that want to get a permit, and friends are telling friends, and it's getting out, whether they realize the direct relation or not. They're getting into it, and they're starting to open their eyes and starting to get hopeful with Second Amendment rights, and they're getting hopeful for that.
I think more and more people are asking about CCWs, and the people they're asking, that's the first thing they tell them is the results of that case.
Correct.
And they all look at you and go, really?
Right.
Because they don't know.
They don't get the connection.
So then the next thing you know, they tell somebody else, and then they tell somebody else. So, the word of mouth is almost better than social media. Because I wouldn't doubt social media would block something like that.
Oh, they do. They censor it.
Let me ask you guys a question. What is it that keeps you in the mindset you're in that self-empowered mindset? What is it that keeps you there?
Well, I've thought about moving to another state where, there's freedom and all the things that I'm fighting for. But I've realized that if I got there wouldn't be anybody to argue with, fight against, and beat. And so the motivation to win and then, dance in a circle, after my victory, and, that's what motivates me, I think.
Well, I think people like us really, we don't mind the fight. I mean, we'll get in there and get our hands dirty because, you know, I don't know, maybe we're built like that. It's just one of those things. And without people willing to fight, I can't imagine what this country would look like.
You want my real answer?
That wasn't your real
that wasn't
answer?
it might have been more of my real answer than I care to admit. But my real answer is, once I saw how important this issue was, once it impacted me personally, and I started getting involved, and I really saw the scope of the problem, and saw that it could be solved, but it has to, you know, it takes work. I realized that it's not just about toys. It's not just about cool possessions that we can go down to the, you know, range and shoot, and boy, this looks cool and whatever. It really, once I was able to see the fact that this is about a piece of society and humanity and civilization that is crucial and important, and that has to do with self-defense, I realized, you know what, I could go live my life and make some money and retire and go, you know, watch TV and or
You could quit your day job,
well,
which you made good money at, and do this.
We could make a real, true change,
Right.
which is exactly what this country is supposed to be. It's the country that's self-governed, and without, you know. So once I realized that, hey, we as a group, every single member of these packs, everybody who's in this fight with us, we can actually have a real, true effect on humanity and the civilization and history, and that's more important than anything else. That's more important than my safety. That's more important than my comfort. That's more important than the size of my wallet or checking account. It's going to be our mark on humanity. And that's why I wake up every morning and fight this fight. That's the real answer.
And don't you also agree the people you meet, the people you touch, the people that you share this story with is positive. And it's just like it's a relief that people are understanding what you're trying to do and what you're trying to say, and they're joining you. Look how big
it's a great honor.
Look how big SDCGO is, Orange County, Inland Empire.
Yep.
I mean, come on, you're going to go live in a 10-foot trailer and go to L.A.
It's a great honor, and I appreciate all that. But the fact that we are having a true impact on the human race and civilization is what motivates me.
Right.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you know what else I think about a lot is I don't want, you know, my son to look back at me and say, you know, Dad, I'm locked down in my house with my family for no good reason. Our cars have been shut down, and we can't use them. We can't go anywhere unless the government approves of it. We can't buy anything unless the government approves of it. Dad, why didn't you fight harder?
Amen.
That's a good one.
Dan, how do people find your book and learn more about you, man? You got a website, or how do they listen to your show, or where do you want to direct them to?
Absolutely. And thanks, guys. It's always great talking to you. I really appreciate being on the show. You guys are doing a fantastic job, and keep it up. We really appreciate what you're doing. People can find me at goodgunbadguy.com. Goodgunbadguy.com. I also write on a regular basis for AmmoLand. You can find me at ammoland.com. And also the Loaded Mic. Loadedmic.com is my web show. So thanks so much, guys.
When you become a member of Inland Empire, Orange County, or San Diego County gun owners, you join the other members as plaintiffs in key cases working to defend and restore your Second Amendment rights. Mike is up next with an update on the lawsuits.
But first, Gun Prom is coming to the Inland Empire. Get your dresses and suits ready. Dust off them dancing shoes. Get ready to celebrate and support the Second Amendment. Join us in our Second Amendment supporter November 12th, 2022 at March Air Museum in Riverside. You can celebrate the delicious food, drinks, and dancing. Don't miss your chance to win some amazing prizes and support the Second Amendment at the same time. Get your tickets now at gunprom.com.
So we were talking a lot about the election. We've been talking a lot about a lot of stuff. We just talked with Dan Wos about a lot of things, but we focused a little bit on the Bruen case, which is enormous, the Supreme Court decision.
Okay, so explain it to people in case they just tuned in.
Sure. The Bruen case out of New York, which is where Dan's from, is a historic and enormous victory for Second Amendment. The decision came out in June, basically getting rid of. It did two things. It got rid of the subjective requirements to get a carry permit in all 50 states. So California, New York, especially, there were only about, I don't know, there were 3, 4, 5, something like that, 6, 7 states where they had this weird subjective good cause requirement. Got rid of that. But then the other thing it did is it said, look, all lawsuits from here on out, judges have to look at this thing from a historic perspective. What's the text? What's the history? What did they actually mean when they wrote it? Huge victory for the Second Amendment. You can't look at it through this weird prism of, well, it's 200 years later and now it means something different than it meant. Or heck, it's 10 years later. It's 10 years later and now it means something different.
Is that why we're not hearing anything about it?
I
mean, really?
It's so that's what we wanted to talk about. So what exactly is going on? All right, so we got this great lawsuit. What exactly is going on? I wanted to touch on all the lawsuits that San Diego is a part of. Many of them, Orange County and Inland Empire are also a part of. Huge thanks to Firearms Policy Coalition, who we partner with. We get a lot of questions. How do we work with other Second Amendment organizations? And the partnership and friendship that we have with Firearms Policy Coalition is a perfect example of that. They don't do what we do. We don't do what they do. So together, this is one way we can work to continue to solve the problem. So I just wanted to make everybody aware. And you can go to each of the websites, SanDiegoCountyGunOwners.com or OrangeCountyGunOwners.com or InlandEmpireGunOwners.com, and then /lawsuits. If you add that extension, you can see an update on all these different lawsuits and what exactly we're doing. So let me touch on it. First, let's talk about the Wynn versus Bonta. Bonta, of course, is the Attorney General, and Wynn is one of our members, Michelle, and it's Nguyen, Michelle Wynn. This is the challenge to California's 1 in 30 firearm purchase ban. So essentially, what California has required by law is that you can only purchase one firearm every 30 days. And we decided, you know what, if this is a constitutionally protected right, then that type of limitation is, of course, unreasonable. So we're taking it to court. And if you are a plaintiff of San Diego County Gun Owners, that means that you are a plaintiff, one of the plaintiffs in the case. We're very, very proud of that. So what's going on with it? Like all lawsuits, it's a big wait and see. It's a hurry up and wait. So we got to wait to get our day in court. We got to wait to get the judge to do their decision. But just know that we are working hard in that lawsuit, and within the next couple of years, we will get a final decision that 1 in 30 law will be struck down. The next is the Jones versus Bonta case. That challenges the ban. It's an age-based ban, so that adults, law-abiding, sane adults who are 18, 19, and 20 years old cannot purchase a gun in California. There are a few very minor exceptions, but for the most part, it is an age-based ban. So Jones versus Bonta is going to challenge that. Now, the importance of that is it's basic. It's going to say, hey, look, if this is a right, once you're the age of majority, you get that right. Like, this isn't a secondary right that only some adults get. So the Jones versus Bonta case is looking to get rid of the 18 to 20 age-based ban on purchasing firearms. Now, I think the one that most people have heard of the most is Miller versus Bonta. That challenges California's assault weapons ban. Now, Miller is one of our board members, Jim Miller. San Diego County Gun Owners is also a plaintiff in this case, which means that all our members are plaintiffs as well. And at first go-around, this is, Benitez, Judge Benitez, struck it down and said, yeah, this is not constitutional, but then immediately put a stay on it, meaning that, hey, my decision doesn't go into effect yet, because he knew immediately there was going to be a challenge. So he basically said, look, let's get this challenge, let's get to a final decision quick, rather than these back and forth. It's legal 1 week, it's not legal the next week, which is kind of what happened with the Mag case. But that is the first time in U.S. history that a court has ruled against an assault weapons ban. That's good. That's good. So it was kind of in a holding pattern. It was kind of working its way up. Then the Bruin case that we talked about, the Supreme Court case, came down, and the Supreme Court said, all right, back to the drawing board. This Miller case, you need to go back and you need to revisit this thing. and pretty much get another decision. So all the memos have been submitted. All the information that Judge Benitez has asked from the state and from our attorneys has been submitted, which means that by the end of the year, we're probably going to have some kind of decision from Benitez. Now, what happens from there? Not sure. But the cool thing is the decision that he wrote was very much in line with the Bruin decision when it comes to, text and history.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to a very good result from the Miller case.
Then they appeal it.
That's all possible. Yes, they could appeal it. Go to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Maybe up to the Supreme Court.
Could go back up to the Supreme Court. All that could happen. But you got to understand just how clear the decision is when compared to the Bruin decision. You look, it's like carbon copy.
Mm-hmm.
The Bruin decision and the Benitez's decision.
So it's almost like, okay, Bruin went through. This one probably, because of the language, it'll be hard to fight.
Extremely hard.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely hard. The Renna, let's go to the next case. Renna versus Bonta challenges California's handgun roster and self-manufacturing bans, particularly the handgun roster. This is a safe handgun roster where you can't purchase certain firearms unless it has technology that doesn't exist, this micro-stamping. Renna is actually my former neighbor, and she went to another state, and she was in another gun store, and she was looking at handguns and found a Smith & Wesson Shield EZ, and she has issues with the grip, her hands, and found that she could rack the slide on an EZ and said, hey, I want to own this in California. And they said, nope, can't do that. So it's almost an ADA thing, right?
Yeah.
It's almost
you can't mess with those guys.
So we firmly believe, now that's working its way through, we firmly believe that we have an extremely strong case that falls right in line with the Bruin case, the Bruin decision. And so that's what we're doing to challenge the handgun roster. And then two more real quick. One is Farr versus San Diego, which challenges the city of San Diego's ban on 80% kits. The 80% kits are raw material that people would, turn into firearms, then of course register them, et cetera, et cetera. We are suing there. And then the Barba versus Bonta is with FPC. That's the Second Amendment lawsuit that protects gun owners' privacy. It used to be the Brandeis versus Bonta case, but that's so that the state cannot release your private information on gun owners and ammo buyers to a third party, like research folks that want to ban your guns. So those are the lawsuits. Check it out by going to any of the websites: San Diego County Gun Owners, Orange County Gun Owners, Inland Empire Gun Owners /lawsuits.
You are definitely a bee in their bonnet.
That's exactly right. We're more like a hornet in their bonnet.
Are you afraid of printing? Is carrying uncomfortable for you? Well, how do you carry, conceal, and still look good? Is Rhonda Mary going to talk to us about it? Because she may have the things for you. So stay tuned. She will be next. But hey, a lot of companies are so frustrated with their websites. It looks old, it's out of date, and it's not getting customers. Well, Sage Tree gets it. Since 2005, Sage Tree has been helping companies with websites that look great, work great, and get leads. Stop by being frustrated by your website and get one that you're proud to share. Contact Sage Tree today to get a website that makes the phone ring. Getting started is real easy. Just call 866-728-9100. That's 866-728-9100 and fix your website today.
So, Rhonda.
Are you in the house?
Hey, y'all.
Hi,
I'm
Rhonda.
Here.
So,
Hi.
hi. So you're here. You're going to be talking to us a little bit about with the concealed carry guide for women. I'm excited to hear it. Can you tell us first, though, a little bit about yourself?
Okay. So my name is Rhonda Mary. I am a Second Amendment advocate and a political commentator. I started off as a YouTuber, actually, and as I was learning more about history and the Constitution and all of these other things, I was becoming more open to the idea of owning a firearm. And I simultaneously, during this process, was in a hit and run / road rage incident, which actually prompted me to become a gun owner a little bit more quickly. And during that time, I was able to learn so much. I was able to, because of what I was doing with my YouTube, able to have access to some really great trainers like all over the country. And as I was learning more, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is way different than what I've ever seen on CNN. This is way different than what I've seen on mainstream media and shouted from the rooftops. And I'm like, this information I have to share with other people. I have to bring people on this journey with me, particularly women, particularly Black women. Because at the time when I started this was actually an underrepresented group in terms of gun ownership. And so over the past several years, I've been talking about how to be a safe and responsible gun owner. And recently, I created a concealed carry style guide, which just shows some different ways and techniques that I use to conceal carry. Because originally, when I was learning to use a firearm, a lot of the instructors around me were male. Mm-hmm. It's a male-dominated industry. And so the advice I would get a lot of times is, oh, man, you got to put on bigger T-shirts. You got to wear bigger jeans, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, if this is going to make me not feel like me on an every day to day, I don't see how that would inspire me to carry, and especially women that are coming new and fresh into this realm. And so I'm like, I have to figure out a way to make this more relatable, because even though a lot of the times we see when they are talking about gun ownership on TV, we oftentimes see it from the perspective of prior military, of police. But when we actually look at the statistics, the large number of people that carry firearms every day are just regular, everyday people like me. And so I feel like, okay, this is the perfect lane for me to do this from, because, you know, I'm just kind of like your girl next door type of image, and showing women that it can be done and you can still keep your flirty and your feminine look. You may have to make some tweaks here and there, but you don't have to dress like, you know, an old guy to carry your firearm with you every day. And you also don't have to carry it in your purse every day either. That's an option. But even when we're doing that, right, we want to make sure that we're going about it the safe way as possible and using the mechanisms that are made specifically for gun owners. And actually, compared to prior history, this is one of the best times for female gun owners, because now you have so many companies that are seeing this demographic exploding, and they're like, okay, how can we, you know, speak to this market? And so now you're seeing so many clothing styles that are coming with your ways to carry built in. So it's just a really good time for women gun owners.
Well, you know, Rhonda, I really like to commend you, and it's unfortunate that it took a circumstance of a bad situation in your life to bring you here. But I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you found this niche and this, because you're right, women, we don't have a whole lot that markets to us. A lot of the gun world is tailored to men, you know, but there are a whole lot of options that are coming up for women, and I want to commend you for kind of taking the lead and to giving a voice to that, because a lot of women don't know where to turn or where to go. And so I'm thankful that you're you're getting the word out there and you're giving some options and connecting with women. I'm curious though, how long have you been carrying for?
Oh, at this point, every day, it's probably been about 2 to 3 years at this point. And it took me a little time to build up the courage to carry, because first, you know, well, in Mississippi, you can have this firearm because it's a constitutional carry state. So you can have your firearm in your home, in your car, without a permit. And so I did that for a little while. And I'm like, okay, no, now I have to, you know, take this thing to the next level. And, you know, you kind of work your way up to it. And something that's really interesting about being a gun owner is, I mean, I've seen guys that have shot for years get around some of the best shooters in the world, or the country or the world, and they're still learning. So it's a ever evolving process, and you're building on concepts, right? Because
Absolutely.
I remember something that they would tell us when I first started training. It's like, don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot. And it's like, then, you kind of start working and building on these concepts. And the next thing, it's like, all right, as soon as you have your sights online and you're pushing out that firearm, go ahead and be prepping that trigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So something so small like that, and those little details of growing and becoming this more evolved shooter, it's just a really interesting, it's a discipline. It's really a discipline,
Absolutely. It's a whole mindset.
Yeah.
So how long do you think that it took for you? Because like you had stated, there's not really an existing guide out there like this. How long did it take you, once you kind of got into the gun world, to kind of put this information together to where you felt ready to put it out to the public?
Oh, okay. So I recently started working on this within the last several months. And it took me, so I've had some ideas, and I even now have some stuff in the can that I'm preparing for my experience. Because like I said, I don't think it's a lot of stuff on the market out there from this perspective. A lot of it is from the people that grew up their whole lives shooting with their grandfather, or, they've been working in the industry for so long. And so I've been working on this for a couple of months and really just tailoring it from my perspective, not trying to make it seem like I'm somebody that's been in the industry for 20 plus years. But I think that it's a certain segment of women that really resonate with that, because it's like, yeah, I get this. Like, this feels relatable. Like, this feels doable.
Right. It's ever evolving.
And you're breaking it down and making it simple and easily digestible and easy to understand. And so I think that's kind of like what's unique about it. In this particular style guide, concealed carry style guide, like I said, these are just mine, because what I was noticing is that I would create these videos and I would give these tips of, okay, this is what you can do, try this, try that. And I would have a lot of feedback of, where did you get that holster, or how are you concealing today? And so kind of just saying, well, these are some of the tips and techniques and things that I picked up, over the years, even as, some women may think, oh, well, to carry, I have to wear jeans. You don't have to wear jeans. I conceal with skirts and dresses all the time, and kind of giving those alternatives. Okay, well, this is what I use. This may work for you. You may want to try this, and kind of breaking down those options is very easy. I get a website of where I get all of my stuff, how much it is. A lot of this is very cost effective. It's not expensive. And I give several options where you can say, oh, okay, this looks like how I dress, or this looks like something I will be interested in. So I am going to try this and purchase that. It doesn't have to be I have to get all of these things and do, that's another thing that, like, gun owners, as you're growing in the experience, a lot of gun owners end up, well, not a lot, I would say more people that start to get into it as a hobby. Sometimes you'll find yourself trying a lot of different holsters. You'll find yourself trying, buying different firearms over the years, and kind of trying to really figure out, okay, like, what do I like? What would be best for me as a gun owner, right? And I just find it so much easier, especially when a person is relatable, and it's like, okay, try this, this, and this. It's like, oh, that's it? Okay, cool, perfect.
And it works. It works.
Yes.
So before we get into the specifics of some of your carry recommendations and tips, I actually have a pretty important question. It's a good foundation question, and it's going to be asked by our special guest co-host, Jackson. Jackson, you ready for the question?
What's your favorite gun?
Nice.
So right now, I carry the Smith and Wesson. The Smith and Wesson. Oh Lord, it's a Smith and Wesson. I'm gonna have a
Is
name
she gonna
for
say
you.
shield?
You
Is it a
say
shield?
that.
It's a gun.
It's a gun.
Smith & Wesson 500, probably.
Sounds good.
No, it's
That's
the
about right.
MP.
MP shield?
Yeah.
There
The
you
shield
go.
easy or the straight shield? We'll
She
have
can
to
probably
figure
get.
that out.
She can probably get an easy.
She probably can. I sure hope she does.
We can't get one.
No.
Hey, if you're looking to buy, refi, or if you're considering a reverse mortgage, call our local mortgage guy that you can trust. Call Chris Wiley at PRMI Mortgage. For nearly 25 years, Chris Wiley has been helping local San Diegans with all their mortgage needs. They make it easy. They work with a friendly expert team that will help you get the best deal on a mortgage. Call Chris Wiley at 619-722-1303 or primeres.com/Alpine.
So, Rhonda, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we solve the mystery of your Smith &
Yes.
Wesson? What is it? What do we
Okay.
have?
So the Smith and Wesson Performance Center. Sometimes
Okay.
I get it mixed up with the Easy,
Mm-hmm.
but I like both of those, and especially so I have carpal tunnel going on now, or at least allegedly. And so I really like the Easy because I mean, just as it's said, it's just a lot. It's very user friendly. And so I like that. But as far as what I'm carrying every day, the Performance Center is what I've been shooting here recently. And I was introduced to that firearm by someone that was working over there at Smith & Wesson. So that Performance Center is nice.
Nice. I've shot one, but that's not a gun that's available to us here in California. So unfortunately, many of us-
Really?
yeah.
Yet.
Yet.
Yeah, we're
Working on that.
What's up with that?
Oh, you would not believe. I think we got how many guns do we have on the roster? 7?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to it's pretty ridiculous out here, Mary. You have to
Oh my goodness.
in order for a dealer to sell a handgun in California, it has to include a little micro stamp on it that puts a little serial number basically on the brass before it's ejected from the gun. Well, that doesn't exist. That technology doesn't exist. So they're requiring something that doesn't exist in order to sell a gun. So we're fighting them in court.
Oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
know y'all are.
So-
I mean, I could just imagine. Yeah, we got to get some of this stuff overturned.
We got to get you out here. We talked about it last time.
Oh, you tell her that story, then you tell her
Yeah.
to come on out.
Yeah, you got to come out here and see how horrible it is.
I don't think she needs to
Yeah.
travel that far to see how bad it is.
No, I'm going to get her out here for gun prom.
For gun prom, I think so.
Yeah, in September. You got to put it on your. It's September 16th, 2023. You gotta pencil us in. We're gonna get you out here for gun prom.
I want to shoot with her. when she comes out.
Okay, I'm totally down.
You can hit the range with me, Rhonda?
Oh, absolutely. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
How about you, Action Jackson? You gonna go show the ladies how to shoot?
Yes, please.
There you go. He's a pretty good shot, girl, so be careful.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. All right. So, Rhonda, I'm curious. You know, being women, right, we have a lot of options. We have all the traditional carrying places that men do with a few additional extra bonus places that we have as well. I'm curious, what is your take on, and of course, there's a lot of variables, you know, different body styles, body types. Everybody has proportions in different places. Some will work for one, may not work for another. But I'm curious, kind of what is your take on the different carry positions as far as concealability on a woman?
So, for me, I will personally say that it's going to either be appendix or 3 o'clock, just basing it on body size, easy accessibility, and the way that she dresses.
Mm-hmm.
I will always say that those 3 will be best. So that's going to be in front of you or on your hip, and obviously the opposite side if you're left-handed. So, and it's really about finding workarounds and finding ways to lessen the printing.
Mm-hmm.
And also it could be, you're going to have some firearms that are going to just depending on the person, could be easier to carry. Like when I carry, like the firearms that I have at home may not be as maybe bigger than the ones that I carry on me on a day-to-day. And so those will be things to consider too. But just tactically, I think that those are going to be the best positions. Now, sometimes when I have on like a dress, I will do like a thigh holster or something like that. I think that those work well. Shell Todd, who is like one of my faves and does really great work in 2A advocacy, and she always has on her pretty little polka dot dresses, and that's one of her, favorite ways to carry. And so I think it's just about really finding like what's most comfortable for you and what fits like your everyday routine, like your everyday life.
How important do you feel it is to practice your draw? Because you're talking about different carry positions.
Yes.
So I'd like to hear your take on that.
This is a great question. So I would say for most people, what I would recommend is having your standard, like, this is how I'm going to carry most of the time. And when you're going to the range, making sure that you are practicing from that position. I'm actually working on some content for this upcoming week. But making sure when you're going to the range, you're actually drawing and practicing from that position. So I would say that everyone should have that standard position, right? Mm-hmm. And then on occasion, when you get fancy or you're feeling yourself, if you have other positions that make sense, whether that is a thigh holster, whether that is a carry purse that's made specifically for gun owners, then you also want to make sure you're practicing. And it's always good to get a few reps of dry fire in every single time before you leave the house. Now, for some people, it might be like every single time. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's good to do, it's good to 5 minutes of dry fire, a few times a week is really good. Mm-hmm. And even more so important when you are dry firing from a position that is not your everyday carry position. Okay. So those are definitely some good things to take up. Again, making sure you are drawing at the range, using those positions when you go to the range, and also getting a few reps of dry fire. So it's almost like muscle memory, getting used to where you're carrying. Correct. On your body.
If you've never practiced, drawing from concealment, especially, if you, like you had mentioned, wearing skirts, dresses, and things, getting to that firearm, if you've never practiced it, if you have to draw it, that can make the difference between surviving that encounter versus not. And that's
Absolutely.
Important. Practice it.
Absolutely.
Practice. I'm curious, have you ever tried, for example, a lot of the things that are marketed to women, for example, the flashbang or different bra holsters, is that anything that you've experimented with?
The bra holster, well, first of all, I'm not that blessed in that area. So unfortunately for me, when I have tried to carry there, I haven't had the best of luck. Mm-hmm. But I'm just not a fan. I'm just, the way we draw and, the way we push the firearm out, I'm just not a fan of that. I know some people that do it. That has just never appealed to me, that particular position. Mm-hmm. Okay. It just seems awkward to draw from.
It is a little awkward, I have to say. At worst, there could be a little bit of distraction that could work to your benefit.
Well, yeah. I could see that.
So
I'm blessed. I just haven't tried it yet.
Let him borrow mine.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. So you had mentioned appendix. You mentioned 3 o'clock. We've talked a little bit about the bra holster. You mentioned the thigh carry. Have you ever, for example, tried a filster, the Enigma?
So I'm going to say this, and it's probably not going to be the most popular thing. I have an Enigma sitting in my drawer right now.
So do I.
And I couldn't just, it just never did it for me, unfortunately. Now, what I use is something that I I like better. I just like better is the comfort concealment belt, which has kind of like that same idea. You could go beltless.
Right. It's like a neoprene stretch belt.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not like, attached to your leg or anything like that. I just could not I just couldn't work my way around the Enigma. Now, I have seen some people take to it really, really well. They love it. They speak highly of it. But for me, I felt like I could get some of the same benefits out of the concealment belt without all of the extra, contraptions and everything else going on with it.
You and I are on the same plane. And for anybody listening who is not aware of the terminology that we're using, the Enigma is a holster rig system that's put together by Filster Holsters. It's actually not a holster. It's simply a belt rig that you put on your person that's independent of clothing, and you attach a compatible holster to it. So you can use your existing holster, but it allows you to position it on your body anywhere from down as low as your pubic bone all the way up to under your bust if you choose to, and anywhere in between. So it has no connection or need to be connected to any of your clothing.
Super popular these days.
It is. It's very popular. And I find that you either love it or you really, really don't. And there is no in between. So
Rhonda, is it, or Alicia, both, is it for men and women?
It is.
It's for men and women.
Yes.
It definitely seems to be way more popular with women.
It's marketed more to women just because men tend to wear things that that have a belt. And so it's not as crucial for them, but it's both men and women. It's just marketed more for women.
And even when I have seen guys wear it's like with gym shorts, it's like, jogging pants, something like that, where it seems like it would make the most sense. I could see how going for a jog in like gym shorts or going to the gym or something, how that would make sense for guys.
Absolutely. I agree. So I'm curious. So you had mentioned it early on that you started off the social media platform. I'm curious, how do we find you? How can we find your guide? Where do we go?
RhondaMary.com, RHONDA Mary MARY.com. You'll find my concealed carry style guide. You'll find all of my social medias, where to find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Is there going to be a men's guide coming out soon?
Is there going to be a what?
A men's guide?
Oh, that might be a good idea. Look at you trying to put me on to some more work to do.
Keeping you busy.
Nothing wrong with it.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for joining us.
A self-defense event happens in seconds. In the time it takes to listen to this commercial, your life could change forever. I pray you never are forced to shoot in self-defense, but if you must, then you must be ready. That's why the USCCA exists, because every responsibly armed American should have the training and education to navigate a self-defense situation. And should you ever need it, the 24/7 criminal response team is right there for you. To discover more about USCCA, visit uscca.com/GOR and act now, because the life you save could be your own. That's uscca.com/GOR.
Hey, Dave, guess what time it is?
It is Stump My Nephew.
Stump My Nephew.
Actually, stump your nephew.
Yeah, exactly. Stump My Nephew. Everybody's favorite segment. We found out years ago that my nephew Sam is extremely good with gun trivia. So if you send in a question and we use it, you get a hat or a shirt. If you stump my nephew, you get a cool special prize. I think today, if the person who wrote in stumps my nephew, we're going to give that person tickets to Gun Prom, Inland Empire's Gun Prom, which is sold out. So this is the only way you can get tickets, is to stump my nephew today. Exactly right. Sam, how's it going, man?
All right. So does Inland Empire have its own gun prom now, or what?
Yeah, Inland Empire has its own gun prom. Orange County has their own gun prom. And then, of course, San Diego, the OG gun prom.
That's very special.
Hey, so you wrote a blog. You wrote an article that went out in the email on Thursday.
I did, yeah.
Talk about your article. What was it on?
Well, I'm worried about getting the last two confused. My most recent post was about Basically hitting on the general theme of authority figures circumventing the gun laws that they either support or enforce.
And you talked about the example you gave from San Diego was?
I used a couple of examples from California. The one I used from San Diego was I'm going to mess up his name. It's Marco Garmo.
Yeah,
right?
Marco Garmo, who was a high-ranking official with the sheriff's department. He was
he was a deputy in the San Diego County Sheriff's Office, and he was caught, convicted, and sentenced for buying off-roster handguns because law enforcement officers can buy off-roster handguns and saying they were for him, and then turning around and selling them under the table to people who couldn't buy off-roster handguns. Basically, a straw purchase scheme.
Yeah, in essence, this law created a black market that only police officers could really participate in. It's the most bizarre series of laws, which we talked earlier about the Rena case, which is hopefully going to get rid of this ridiculous, unconstitutional roster, or at least the portion of it that is impossible to comply with, which is the microstamping. Great article. If you go to our website, Joe Dramisi also has an article up, which is fantastic. It's about the election, which happens Tuesday. If you go to sdcgo.org/blog, you'll be able to read the articles, or if you're a member, or if you just sign up for our newsletter, you'll see it every Thursday. You'll get to read some of the best Second Amendment content on the entire internet, thanks to Joe Dramisi and, of course, Sam, the gunman, my nephew. All right, my friend, you ready for your question?
Yeah, let's have it.
All right. Are you Action Jackson? You ready, bud?
Yep.
All right, fire away. Who's it from?
Brandy from Escondido asks, what pistol features a quad stack 22 LR magazine?
Brandy from Escondido, which I'm pretty sure is a real place. Thank you very much for writing in. I'll do what I usually do and give the short answer and then explain. The question is referring to the Kel-Tec CP33, which is a 22 LR caliber pistol, polymer frame, and as the name suggests, it holds 33 rounds of 22 long rifle in a quad stack magazine. Now, what is a quad stack magazine? Most people out there listening are probably familiar with a single stack magazine, like imagine something out of a 1911, where all the rounds are stacked one on top of another vertically. A double stack magazine increases capacity by widening the body. It staggers the rounds so that you get almost twice as many rounds in the same height of magazine. It just ends up being wider. What a quad stack magazine does, and these are relatively uncommon, but there have been a few different designs throughout the years, is it basically puts two double stack magazines side by side in one body and then combines the feed columns at the top. A little more complicated, but you get a lot more rounds.
Okay.
That is correct. The Kel-Tec CP33 is a futuristic-looking pistol that uses a 33-round flush-fitted quad stack magazine. The little semi-auto plinking pistol is railed for an optic and ready to be accessorized. The ambidextrous, I can never say that word. Pistol also,
you got it.
Oh, thank you, Sam. Thank you. Very encouraging. Pistol, it also features a Magpul M-Lock slot built in the dust cover. Unfortunately, the gem is not available in California because of our stupid gun laws. But yeah, very, very good. That's exactly what it is, the quad stack.
Correct!
Also, it's also an add-on to your breakfast at Denny's. You can order a quad stack. I don't know if you, Jackson, you've gotten the quad stack before, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's super delicious. It really is.
Wait.
Awesome, man.
Thanks. I can't say anything else other than thanks. I mean, if there was a gun themed breakfast restaurant, I think the quad stack would be a good menu item name.
I totally agree. Hey, so you got to meet Bill Paxton
What?
a couple days ago, right?
Bill Paxton is no longer alive. I met the person he portrayed in the movie Apollo 13.
I was close.
Astronaut Fred Hayes.
Fred Hayes. You got to meet Fred Hayes from Apollo 13 in person, right?
I did, yes. He was delivering a presentation at a museum near me because I live in Northern Virginia, so we have all sorts of cool museums here affiliated with the Smithsonian, and got to hear him speak. Really interesting guy.
What was that like? I mean, standing there, meeting a living legend. What was that like?
Well, I mean, that's the closest I've ever been to an astronaut, just standing right across the table from him. We talked briefly before this presentation he gave, but you have to remember all those guys were some of the brightest people in America at the time back in the 1960s. And even though, it's 50 some odd years later and they've aged quite a bit, those guys are still whip smart. They're all scientists, engineers by training and trade, and they have a lot of really interesting stories to share.
And what did you tell him about your, what was your comment to him about your experience in the skies?
Well, I mentioned to him that I'm a pilot as well, and that might sound kind of dumb, but every pilot likes to hear from other people that they are also pilots, even though he flew spacecraft around the moon, and I just fly single-engine, piston-engine airplanes.
I don't think that's dumb at all. I think that's awesome. You told him what? You're working on your instrument rating, right?
I did, yes.
I think that's cool. I think that's awesome. That's like what it's like. It's like if you're like Babe Ruth and some little kid comes up and says, "Hey man, I'm playing Little League," I think you'd be excited about that.
Did you ask for any tips?
No, I didn't get the chance to ask for any tips, but I'm sure he has more than enough. He's experienced way more things in an airplane than most professional pilots ever will.
You might be surprised. He may have started out just like you did.
Well, everyone's got to start somewhere, and everyone starts pretty similarly. I
think he was a Marine, too. Wasn't he a Marine pilot?
He was a pilot in the Marine Corps and in the Oklahoma Air National Guard. He flew in combat.
Okay, astronaut trivia. Who is Harrison H. Schmitt?
Harrison Schmitt. He was one of the Apollo astronauts. I think he was he the last one to walk on the moon?
Yes.
No.
No, you're right. He was the last one to walk on the moon. He was an Apollo astronaut. I think technically Gene Cernan was the last guy to stand on the moon, but he was the last guy to step foot on the moon. You're absolutely right. Timothy Schmitt. He was the bass player for the Eagles. Totally different guy. Harrison Schmitt. You're exactly right. I don't know why you know that. Do you know why? Let's go even deeper. What made him different than the other Apollo astronauts?
He was the only one who didn't have a military background. He was a geologist.
That's ridiculous. All right, I give up. I can't believe he knows that. That's exactly right. He was not a. He's exactly right. He was a geologist.
How'd you know that? Or you just read it on your phone?
I just know stuff.
Oh, please.
That's one of the things.
Is that running the family? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I do two things. Second Amendment, know stuff.
And?
That's it. Those are the two things. So that's awesome. Very, very cool. All right, Sam, very cool. Thanks for saving me some tickets to Gun Prom. We will send whoever it was in Escondido, we'll send you a hat or a shirt, whatever you'd like. And thank you. Great job, Sam. As always. Appreciate it, man.
As always, thanks for having me on. Keep the questions coming. Hopefully more about guns and not necessarily about astronauts, because I think I have a little less knowledge in that respect.
Well, I got to tell you, I probed the astronaut angle, and I'm done. I'm not even going to try. I was like, we'll see if we can start stumping them with astronaut trivia. I guess not.
Good job, buddy.